Hi class, and welcome to week 2 of our 8-week Introduction to C# course, Programming Logic. This lecture I want to talk about algorithms and pseudocode. So last week we began learning some of the basics, how to write a line to the console, how to take user input, how to define variables, use them in string interpolation. But before you write an application, it's good to draw it out and determine what you want to do. Sometimes writing code and figuring out at the same time what you want to do is ineffective. So you've been reading the Dytel Visual C# book, and any book you read is going to talk about algorithms. So what are algorithms? There's two parts to an algorithm. It's a set of actions that you want to execute, things you want to do. Sorry, that's my dog. Hi, Ernie. And the second part is the order that you want to do those things. So if we talk about asking the user what their favorite number is, the first step would be to display to the console, what is your favorite number? The second step would then be to accept input from the user, allowing the user to tell you their favorite number. All of this can be expressed by simply typing it in a Word document or a text file before you write the code. So I have Notepad++ open, and let's write some pseudocode. Now, what is pseudocode? Fake, quasi-code. It's a set of statements that aren't necessarily any specific computer language, but they're a spoken or written language representation of an algorithm. So I just talked about asking the user what their favorite number was. So we can write this quote-unquote application in pseudocode. So here, I'm typing, and I will write display to the user a message to tell us what their favorite number is. The next step would be gather input from the user in the form of a number. Integer. And then maybe after the user enters their number, we want to read it back to them. Read the input number back to the user. So there is your first piece of pseudocode. We have an application. We want to ask the user what their favorite number is. We want to gather the input from the user, allowing them to enter their favorite number, and then we want to read that number back to the user. So you have your pseudocode. So we can copy this pseudocode and go to Visual Studio. Now, from last videos, I realize it was a little bit hard to see. I'm working with a high density screen here, so I'm increasing the font size so you can see what we did. But we have our pseudocode, and I talked about comments last week. You can then simply drop this in before you write the application. So here we see, here's our pseudocode, and now we have it right in front of us as we write the application. So I can write the first line, display to the user a message to tell us what their favorite number is. Console.writeLine What is your favorite number? All right. Now we want to read the input back from the user, and we want it to be an integer format. So int number equals int.parse console.readline. All right. Now we want to read that input number back to the user. Great. You entered. And we want to use string interpolation. You entered number. Wonderful. All right. So we see our 3 pseudocode lines and our 3 corresponding actual C# code lines. Now, the lines in pseudocode will not always correspond to the number of lines in your code. But you can use it in general as a way to translate from your idea to actual programming. Another great thing about pseudocode is you can turn it into comments. So we have this block here, and we can take each line and express it as a comment over each line. Look at that. It helps you, and it helps me when I'm grading your labs and tests and whatnot. So we'll go ahead and build this. Great. We will test it. And there we go. There's your application. So again, pseudocode can help you structure what you want to do and how you want to do it, also known as building your algorithm, before you write the code. I highly suggest that as you work on bigger projects, you write out pseudocode and get used to doing it on a regular basis. It will really help you keep focused, know when and where key pieces of code need to be written, and in the end, comment your code properly.